What would you do if you saw someone humiliate a person just because of the color of their skin? Today's story will shake you to your core, because when a proud doctor tries to belittle a kind-hearted nurse, karma walks in wearing scrubs. Stay with me till the end, because what happens next will restore your faith in humanity. And before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Kindness Tales Live for more stories that touch your heart and open your eyes. The fluorescent lights of St. Grace Medical Center flickered faintly as Nurse Maya Thompson adjusted the IV line of an elderly patient, Mrs. Walker. Maya had been on her feet for almost 12 hours, yet her face held that same gentle smile she gave every patient. Her deep brown eyes carried both exhaustion and compassion, two qualities that defined her completely. She was known as the heart of the hospital, though not everyone appreciated her the same way. At that very moment, the door swung open. Dr. Andrew Collins, one of the hospital's senior surgeons, marched in with his usual air of superiority. His spotless white coat and cold blue eyes announced authority before his voice did. "Nurse Thompson," he said sharply, glancing at her name badge as though it offended him. "When I ask for a report, I expect it immediately. Not whenever you feel like it." Maya froze for a second, holding the clipboard tighter. "I was just finishing Mrs. Walker's vitals, doctor. I was going to—" He cut her off with a raised hand. "Excuses again. You people never understand urgency." His tone was sharp, laced with irritation and something worse. The patient, Mrs. Walker, frowned uncomfortably, looking between them. "You people?" Maya repeated softly, her voice trembling but steady enough to hold dignity. "I'm doing my job, doctor." Dr. Collins scoffed. "Your job is to assist, not to talk back. Maybe if you focused more on following orders than talking, this department would run better." The words hit like a slap, not just to Maya but to Mrs. Walker too, who had always admired Maya's kindness. Silence filled the room. Maya felt her face burn as every pair of eyes, patients, interns, even passing nurses, seemed to be watching. For a moment, she wanted to disappear. But deep inside, a voice whispered, "Don't let him take your pride." With a calm she barely recognized, Maya placed the clipboard on the counter. "With all due respect, doctor, I've served here for 8 years. Every patient I've cared for has left this ward with dignity. I'd appreciate it if I could be given the same." The room went still. Dr. Collins's jaw tightened. "Careful, nurse, I can make sure you don't last another 8 days here." Mrs. Walker suddenly spoke up, her frail voice breaking the tension. "Dr. Collins, I may be old, but I'm not deaf. That young lady has been nothing but kind to me. If you can't see that, maybe you need your eyes checked." A hush fell over the room. Collins looked stunned, his authority shaken by the patient's unexpected defense. Maya blinked back tears. She didn't want pity, she wanted respect. But that single moment of truth from Mrs. Walker gave her something stronger than fear. Courage. Dr. Collins muttered something under his breath and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Maya exhaled slowly, her hands trembling as she cleaned up the tray. Mrs. Walker reached for her hand. "Sweetheart, don't let anyone like that make you feel small. Some people wear white coats, but that doesn't make their hearts clean." Those words struck deep. Maya nodded, managing a small smile. "Thank you, Mrs. Walker, that means more than you know." But what Maya didn't know was that her quiet grace had already started a ripple through the ward. Other nurses whispered about what they'd seen. Even a young intern who'd been watching recorded a short clip, not out of gossip, but because he believed what happened was wrong. That clip would soon spread far beyond the walls of St. Grace, and by the time Dr. Collins realized what he had done, the world would be watching. The next morning, St. Grace Medical Center buzzed with quiet tension. The nurses' lounge, usually filled with chatter and laughter, was unusually silent. Phones were out, faces were pale, and the same short clip was looping again and again on every screen. The video showed Dr. Andrew Collins standing tall, his voice dripping with arrogance as he berated Nurse Maya Thompson in front of an elderly patient. It captured the exact moment he said, "You people never understand urgency." Then it cut to Mrs. Walker's trembling voice defending Maya. The clip was only 30 seconds long, but it had already gained thousands of views overnight. By morning, it was all over social media. The caption read, "Doctor humiliates black nurse in front of patient. Watch how she handles it with grace." Maya didn't even know it existed until she walked into the hospital cafeteria. A few co-workers looked away awkwardly. Others smiled in quiet admiration. She could feel their eyes on her, a mix of sympathy and respect. "Maya, you've gone viral," whispered Nurse Jenna, her closest friend. "Everyone's talking about it. Even the administration saw it." Maya froze, her stomach sinking. "Oh no, this isn't good. I don't want trouble. I just want to do my job." But trouble was already brewing. Upstairs in a glass-walled conference room, Dr. Collins stood fuming as hospital executives discussed the scandal. His pride, once unshakable, was now cracking under the weight of public outrage. "This is completely blown out of proportion," Collins snapped. "Someone recorded me without consent. That nurse, she provoked me." "Doctor," said Chief Administrator Reynolds, his tone firm, "what's on that video is unacceptable. You humiliated a staff member, and your words carry racial undertones that the hospital cannot ignore." Collins clenched his fists. "So now I'm being painted as the villain because some nurse couldn't take criticism." Reynolds sighed. "You're suspended pending investigation. We'll review this thoroughly." For the first time, Collins had no words. Suspended. The word echoed in his head like a siren. He stormed out furious, unaware that what would happen next would change him forever. Meanwhile, Maya sat quietly in the staff break room, her mind swirling. She didn't ask for fame or pity, yet now strangers online were calling her brave, graceful, and inspiring. Some even shared stories of facing workplace discrimination. A notification buzzed on her phone. "Stand with Maya" was trending. Still, Maya felt uneasy. "I never wanted revenge," she told Jenna softly. "I just wanted respect." That afternoon, Mrs. Walker's son came to visit. He was a journalist. "You're the nurse from the video?" he asked kindly. "My mom told me everything." "You didn't deserve that, Miss Thompson." "I appreciate that, sir," Maya replied. "I just hope people focus on kindness, not hate." He smiled. "Then maybe this is your chance to remind them." His words lingered in her mind long after he left. That night, after much hesitation, Maya posted a message on her social media. "I didn't want this video to spread, but I'm grateful for those standing against disrespect. We all make mistakes. What matters is learning from them. Kindness isn't weakness, it's strength." The post exploded with positive comments. Thousands shared her words, calling her a symbol of grace under pressure. But not everyone was celebrating. Dr. Collins sat alone in his office, watching the same video for the 100th time. Each replay stung deeper. He saw for the first time how cruel he had sounded, how cold, how his own prejudice had slipped through his pride. He buried his face in his hands. "What have I done?" he whispered. For years he had believed authority meant superiority. That being the smartest in the room made him untouchable. But now a single moment of arrogance had shattered everything he'd built. Across town, Maya returned home late, her heart still heavy. She sat by her window looking at the city lights and whispering a silent prayer, not for punishment but for healing. "Let something good come out of this," she murmured. Little did she know the next day would bring an unexpected visitor, someone who would change both her and Dr. Collins' lives in ways neither could imagine. The morning sunlight filtered through the tall glass windows of St. Grace Medical Center, casting soft golden streaks across the white floors. Nurse Maya Thompson arrived early as always. She expected awkward glances, maybe whispers, but what she didn't expect was the quiet applause that echoed when she stepped into the ward. Nurses, interns, and even patients smiled at her as she walked by. A few clapped softly. Others nodded with pride. Someone had printed out her social media post, the one about kindness and strength, and pinned it to the staff bulletin board. Beneath it, someone had scribbled, "We're proud of you, Maya." Her heart swelled, but she stayed humble. "Thank you," she whispered, smiling shyly. Meanwhile, across the city, Dr. Andrew Collins sat in his home office surrounded by silence. His suspension had stripped him of everything he valued: status, control, admiration. For the first time in decades, he wasn't Dr. Collins, the man everyone deferred to. He was just Andrew, a man alone with his regret. He replayed the video once more. This time, he didn't just see his own anger. He saw Maya's restraint, her pain, her dignity. He saw Mrs. Walker defending her. He saw himself as others did, cold, dismissive, arrogant. He leaned back, rubbing his temples. "What was I thinking?" he muttered. His phone buzzed. A message from Chief Administrator Reynolds. "Mandatory ethics training next week. I hope you'll attend. It's time to rebuild, Andrew." Andrew sighed. "Rebuild," he repeated. If only it were that simple. At the same time, Maya's day took an unexpected turn. During her lunch break, she received a call from the administration office. "Maya, could you come up, please? There's someone who wishes to speak with you." Her stomach tightened. Was it about the video again? When she entered the conference room, she froze. Dr. Collins stood there without his white coat, holding a small box of flowers. His face looked different, not the same stern, superior mask, but tired, almost human. "Maya," he began softly, "I owe you an apology. A real one." She didn't respond right away, just listened, cautious but calm. He took a deep breath. "I watched that video more times than I can count. Every time I felt smaller. I saw how cruel I was and how much grace you showed. There's no excuse for what I said. I let pride and prejudice blind me." The room was silent except for the faint hum of the AC. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she clasped them together. "Dr. Collins," she said gently, "it takes courage to admit when you're wrong. I appreciate that. I forgave you the moment I walked out of that room. I didn't want revenge, I just wanted respect." He looked down, shame softening his voice. "You deserved much more than that. I was raised to think authority meant power, not service. But seeing how you handled everything, you taught me something I should have learned long ago." Maya smiled faintly. "We all have lessons to learn. What matters is that we do." He placed the small box on the table. Inside was a simple silver pin shaped like a heart, engraved with the words "Grace Under Pressure." "It's not much," he said, "but it reminded me of you." Maya's eyes glistened. "Thank you, doctor. Really." Later that day, as Maya returned to her ward, whispers spread again, but this time, not in gossip. People had seen Collins walk beside her through the hallway, talking quietly, almost like equals. The man who once belittled her now carried himself with humility. In the days that followed, things slowly changed. Collins attended the hospital's diversity and empathy workshops. He listened, really listened for the first time. Sometimes Maya would catch him volunteering extra hours in the pediatric wing, helping nurses he once ignored. Word of his transformation spread as quickly as the scandal had. Even the media picked up on it, calling it a story of redemption rather than disgrace. One evening, after a long shift, Collins found Maya in the cafeteria. "I've been thinking," he said with a small smile. "Would you consider leading next month's empathy seminar? I think the staff could learn from you." Maya chuckled softly. "Only if you help me co-host it." He blinked, then laughed for the first time in weeks. "Deal." The sun dipped below the skyline, casting long shadows across St. Grace Medical Center. Inside, Nurse Maya Thompson sat in the staff lounge with a warm cup of tea in her hands. Her phone buzzed with another notification. A local news outlet wanted to feature her story. At first, she hesitated. She wasn't looking for fame. She just wanted peace. But after a few moments of thought, she whispered to herself, "If this can help someone else find their voice, maybe it's worth it." 2 days later, a news crew arrived at the hospital. The reporter, Angela Cruz, was known for highlighting stories of compassion and courage. She greeted Maya with a kind smile. "We're not here for drama," she promised. "We're here to show how kindness changed something ugly into something powerful." Maya nodded, feeling a mix of nerves and purpose. As the camera lights flickered on, Maya sat straight, her nurse's badge glinting under the light. "I didn't post that video," she began. "But when it went viral, I realized something. People are hungry for respect and empathy. If my story can remind someone to pause before they speak, to see a person, not a label, then it's worth it." The interviewer asked softly, "And how do you feel toward Dr. Collins now?" Maya smiled faintly. He apologized sincerely. "I believe in forgiveness. We can't fight hate with hate. Only understanding changes hearts." What Maya didn't know was that Dr. Collins was watching that interview live from his apartment. He sat forward on the couch, completely silent, his eyes fixed on the screen. When Maya spoke of forgiveness, his throat tightened. He had been attending every training session, every counseling meeting, but this moment hit deeper than any lecture. That night, he made a decision. The next morning, the hospital held a special assembly. Staff from every department gathered in the main hall. The air buzzed with anticipation as Dr. Collins took the podium. "Good morning, everyone," he began, his voice steady but soft. "You've all seen the video. You've seen my failure. For years, I believed authority made me right, but I've learned humility makes you human." He turned toward Maya, who stood in the crowd, her hands clasped nervously. "Nurse Thompson reminded me that respect isn't earned by a title or degree. It's earned by how we treat one another. I'm not proud of what I said, but I am grateful for the lesson it taught me. And to Maya, I owe you more than an apology. I owe you my respect." A ripple of emotion spread through the room. Some clapped softly. Others wiped away tears. Maya felt her chest tighten, emotion flooding her eyes. She hadn't expected such public humility. When the applause faded, Collins added, "The hospital has decided to launch a new initiative, the GRACE program, to promote kindness, diversity, and empathy in healthcare. It's inspired by the very person who showed me what grace truly means." Everyone turned toward Maya. Her heart raced. She didn't know whether to cry or smile, so she did both. Later that day, as she walked through the ward, people stopped to congratulate her. Even patients who had seen her on TV wanted to shake her hand. "You're the nurse from the story," a little girl said, grinning from her hospital bed. "You're famous." Maya laughed softly. "No, sweetheart. I'm just someone who believes in being kind, even when it's hard." That night, as she left the hospital, she found Dr. Collins waiting by the exit. He smiled gently. "You handled all this better than I ever could have." She shook her head. "We both grew, Doctor. That's what matters." He nodded. "You taught me more in one mistake than I learned in 20 years of medicine." They stood for a moment in silence, the hum of distant traffic filling the air. Then Collins said, "The GRACE program starts next week. I'd be honored if you'd help lead it." Maya's eyes softened. "I'd love to." As she walked home under the glow of city lights, her phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from the producer of a national talk show, inviting her to share her story of forgiveness and courage. Maya smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. Maybe her pain had a purpose after all. A week later, the bright lights of the Good Morning America studio beamed across the room as Nurse Maya Thompson adjusted her microphone. She had never been on television before, but today, she stood tall, not as a victim, but as a voice of hope. The host, Rachel Myers, smiled warmly. "Maya, your story has touched millions. How does it feel knowing that people all over the world see you as a symbol of grace and strength?" Maya smiled gently. "It feels humbling. I never wanted attention. I just wanted to do what's right. But if my story reminds people to treat others with kindness, then it's worth it." Rachel nodded. "That's beautiful. And I hear you're launching something special at your hospital?" "Yes," Maya said proudly. "It's called the GRACE program. It's about empathy training, teamwork, and celebrating diversity. Because hospitals shouldn't just heal bodies, they should heal hearts." The audience applauded. The camera zoomed in on Maya's calm, confident smile. Yet what happened next would turn that moment into something unforgettable. Rachel leaned forward. "We actually have a surprise guest for you, Maya. Please welcome Dr. Andrew Collins." The audience gasped softly as Collins walked onto the stage, dressed in a simple gray suit, holding a single white rose. For a brief moment, Maya froze, unsure what to expect, but when he approached, his expression was filled with humility. He turned to the camera, his voice low but sincere. "I humiliated this incredible woman in front of others. I let my pride and bias blind me. But she responded with grace instead of anger. And because of her, I'm a better man." He turned to Maya, his eyes glistening. "You saved my career, Maya, not by defending me, but by forgiving me. You taught me what real strength looks like." The studio was silent except for the sound of quiet sniffles from the audience. Maya's throat tightened as she whispered, "We both learned something that day. Kindness doesn't mean weakness, it means courage." They embraced briefly, and the audience erupted into applause. Cameras flashed. In that instant, what began as a painful humiliation had transformed into a moment of unity. Later backstage, Collins confessed quietly, "You know, I thought that video ruined me. But now I see it saved me. It made me face who I'd become." Maya smiled, tears shining in her eyes. "We're all still learning, Doctor. That's what makes us human." When the show aired nationwide, social media exploded once again, but this time not in outrage. The hashtag #WannaGraceChanges everything trended for days. People from different walks of life shared their own stories of forgiveness and redemption. Hospitals, schools, and workplaces began inviting Maya to speak about empathy. The Grace program expanded to other cities. Even Dr. Collins became a leading advocate for diversity and respect in healthcare, using his story as a reminder of what unchecked ego can destroy and what humility can rebuild. Months later, on a quiet evening, Maya visited Mrs. Walker, the elderly patient whose voice had first defended her. The old woman was sitting by her window watching the sunset. "Well, look who's on TV every week now," Mrs. Walker chuckled softly. "I told you, sweetheart, some people wear white coats, but you've got a golden heart." Maya laughed, kneeling beside her. "You started all this, you know. You stood up for me when I couldn't." Mrs. Walker squeezed her hand. "And now you're standing up for others. That's how kindness works, it passes on." As they watched the sky turn from orange to violet, Maya thought about everything that had happened. The humiliation, the pain, the forgiveness, the transformation. Life had come full circle. Her phone buzzed with a notification. Another hospital joins the Grace program. She smiled softly. Sometimes the world changes not with grand gestures but with one act of compassion.